So, anyways,
And we're live.
I'm leaning into that one. So yeah, episode 3.
Episode 3 brought again by Yingling, America's oldest brewery.
In America's finest brewery.
And America's finest brewery.
Yeah, a bit of a hiatus for us. A little over a week now we were off. Oh, way to go. And that's how we're going to get sponsored. You expect us to get sponsored acting like this? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I don't know what happened.
Unbelievable. I know what happened.
All right. That's one way to start an episode.
So anyway, some sicknesses set us back. Some other things, life in general. But we are here by
popular demand.
Popular demand of at least Kyle.
At least Kyle.
Kyle was the only one to ask, "Hey, when's the next episode coming out?" So I don't know if he watches these or if he's just being friendly.
He might have just been trying to be nice.
He's never trying to be nice.
Yeah,
that's fine. But so anyway, here we are. And so my objective I gave to Dale on our little hiatus here.
We tried to actually be prepared for this episode.
Slightly prepared.
We're probably off to our worst start yet. Oddly enough.
Or best.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I'll let you take the reins there, Johnny, since you came up with the first, at least the first topic for discussion tonight.
We have gone actually to several trivia nights, horror trivia nights, Star Wars. That's it. Anyway,
that's all that matters.
But Dale is usually the anchor in those situations, so I thought to myself, it would be fun to maybe bring some Star Wars factoid to you that you hopefully don't know, and will kind of blow your mind a little bit.
I'm curious to see what you came up with.
And this is all of the research that I did.
Jesus.
So yeah.
Are those all different facts?
No, this is just building off of one fact here. But anyway, so a fun Star Wars fact that I found out, which now I may have spoiled it because I believe I saw this on a TikTok video and I was like, there's no fucking way.
Well, typically, whenever one of us learns something about the movies or whatever of the franchise as a whole, we either send it to each other or we talk about it already. So that's why I was what haven't we really talked about? That's why I was trying to think of stuff. I have friends like our buddy Goon. I mean, we all kind of have.
He's a walking Wikipedia as well.
My buddy Red that I used to work with. He literally knows everything there is to know about the Star Wars universe. And hey, hell, he's friends with Dave Filoni. I mean, which is insane, huh?
Who's that? That's anyway. So let me start off by.
I'll let you start.
Let me ask you this. So, my favorite creature in all of Star Wars lore is
the Rancor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be fun to do something that involved that. You remember how the Rancor was defeated, correct?
Yes.
And what did Luke Skywalker pick up and throw?
A skull.
Did you know that skull has an entire backstory in the Star Wars universe?
I heard it has a backstory. I forget who it belongs to.
So the guy's name was, and I'm going to butcher this, Bildo Cuerve. He was employed by the Hutts. And so essentially this guy, from what I'm understanding, is that he was employed by the Hutts and he was kind of bidding for the job that Bib Fortuna now has, which is like the right-hand man.
Yeah.
So here comes the irony, was that he didn't become the Hutt's right-hand man. Instead, he was cast into the Rancor pit and was the Rancor's first victim. But the real irony of that was that he actually gifted the Hutts the Rancor that he was consumed by. And here's another fun fact I'm hoping you didn't know that it just blew my mind considering how much I love him, is the Rancor actually had a name.
I did know that. I forget what his or her name was.
Well, you're an ass.
I'm just saying I remember
Patissa.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was I just thought that was really interesting that the fucking and what's funny though is that the appearances that it's on is it has Return of the Jedi. There was a Luke versus the Rancor
Yeah.
on Star Wars, Adventures, whatever. Um, there was a novelization of Star Wars, and then there was Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. He's only credited for his skull. His skull only, skull only, skull only. I guess he did make a character appearance as an actual character by West End Games. He was in like a card game set.
Nice.
That was the only time he was ever actually a
Well,
character.
If I may bring up a point before I say what my factoid
Well,
was.
go ahead, because apparently you fucking know everything.
My my point is, this is one of the issues that a lot of fans had when Disney initially took over the franchise.
Was it to try to run the world?
Well, it's.
I mean, Disney is a great company. And they do a lot for the community.
There's a lot of rants. Yeah,
and
I know, because we got all this stuff back here. They're going to seize everything. But what I was going to say was, George Lucas embraced the fandom so much. He loved when people would come up with their own theories, their own like fan films, their fan videos. They read their own books. He embraced.
Awesome!
Yeah, he'd embrace that. And I remember like when Disney took over, or whatever the company was that took over Star Wars, the mouse. Like a lot of the Star Wars channels I followed that were making like fan films and stuff, they would like try to shut them down.
Yeah, 100%. Do you remember that one? That
Vader.
Yes.
For the music.
Yes.
That was what they got him for, because that was Star Wars Theory, who I follow.
And then it was they made one. It was Maul.
The Maul Apprentice.
Which was awesome. That was awesome.
Which was
awesome. Great. That was great. That was very well made.
And George Lucas loved that stuff. He loved when the fans contributed to the canon, and he would even sometimes see something he liked and say, "Okay, that's part of the canon now."
That was because that was his idea. That was his dream, and he's just like, dude, these guys love my shit.
Yeah.
And
he gave people so much to work with.
And let's face it, he doesn't need the fucking money.
No.
And the other corporation doesn't need the fucking money either.
Well,
why would they?
Well, and what's great is when he was making the movies, like when you watch the Empire of Dreams documentary, he self-funded. He self-funded the trilogy.
He did.
And if those movies for some reason, like say like people love the first one but didn't really care about the second one, he would have been done.
It was on par with Kevin Smith selling his comic book collection to fund his dream.
I mean, he went all in on that, and because oddly, what's ironic is he sold to Disney, but George Lucas has always been, I hate the studio system.
Yeah.
I hate working for the studios. He's like, how can I make this big budget movie and not have to worry about dealing with the studio? Well, I'll just put all my own money into it
and do whatever the fuck I want
and milk them for their resources.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, that's one of the things I have had issue with we're done after this.
I thought that was applause.
Oh, it's not applause. That's what Disney's going to do to us.
Yeah.
Guns blazing.
Oh boy, you done fucked up now.
But that's one thing I've always loved about Lucas when he had because even if we never would have got any more movies, he embraced the fans and everything they contributed. Because some of the fan films, like he said about the Maul Apprentice one, the TIE Fighter animated one, which was made kind of like in an 80s Japanimation style, and it was really, really good.
I want to say I saw that, but I can't be
one of my absolute favorites, because I think this is where I read George Lucas did actually make this canon, was the Cops parody Stormtroopers. You ever see that one?
No.
Yeah, it was made like in the 90s, early 2000s, but these guys got actual like Stormtrooper armor, and they made a Cops parody of the show, but it was all Stormtroopers on Tatooine.
Oh, you know what? I did see that. That was before everyone hated Cops.
Yeah. And the final scene was, if you've never seen it, they are answering a domestic disturbance call, and it was Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, and they get killed.
Their faces all like blurred and shit?
Well, they get killed because Beru goes crazy and sets a detonator off, and that's how they die. And George Lucas loved it. So it's just, it was one of those things where I think as fans of the franchise, and I like a lot of stuff Disney's put out. I love The Mandalorian. I love Book of Boba Fett. I loved some of Obi-Wan. I mean, like what?
Say what you love the most.
I don't love Last Jedi the most. I don't. No, I liked Force Awakens. I actually loved Force Awakens when I first saw it. Then as I watched it a few times, I'm like, it's you know,
Just reskinned of
yeah.
A New Hope.
I have watched the new trilogy so few times, but I've rewatched Mandalorian many times. I've rewatched the Clone Wars, Rebels. I mean, we have gotten good stuff. But that's because Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I mean, they
Pittsburgh guy.
yeah, Pittsburgh guy. Because Dave Filoni was working with George before before Disney took over, but
Filoni was Clone Wars, right?
he was brought on for Clone Wars. Yeah, he started off on Avatar: The Last Airbender with Nickelodeon, and he got brought on. Which, if, I don't know if you hear the story, he thought he was being pranked because he got a call saying, "Hey, we're with Lucasfilm. We want to offer you a job on," because they all knew he was a huge fan, so they thought he was like, "All right, it's the guys,
Yeah.
it's the guys from SpongeBob calling me," and
Yeah.
like, but yeah, he was. I mean, I think he's been a saving grace for the
Oh,
franchise.
100%.
Saving
You know, Kathleen
grace.
Kennedy's not that bad either.
Well, the thing with the reason why I will never really say anything about Kathleen Kennedy is because she's been a juggernaut in the business for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a producer on Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, she's been with George Lucas. There's a
Great-
reason George
great
Lucas
films.
appointed her that position.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, people blame her, but I'm not gonna act like she doesn't know what she's doing. I mean, she's made more money than I'll ever make in my life. So I mean, I can't really.
Most people do.
Most people do, yeah. But my factoid that I thought of, which is
Oh.
one of my favorites, is because I was rewatching the Phantom Menace a few days ago, and Captain Panaka, which was Padme's right hand guy.
Yeah.
He
It
was
was the black guy?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
He was after in the Star Wars canon, he was one of the first people appointed Moff by the Emperor when the Empire rose to power.
Really?
He was one of the first because he stayed loyal to Naboo, and he when the Emperor rose to power, he stayed loyal to Palpatine, and he was named one of the first Moffs of his new regime.
Huh.
So there's like if you read on Wikipedia, he has like a lot of backstory and a lot of stuff that intertwined with like the second Death Star and shit like that. So he has a whole story arc beyond Phantom Menace. The whole reason why he was only in one movie is because they didn't pay him enough money. That's why you got Captain Typho in the second one, the dude that had the kind of Star Wars eye patch.
Captain Typo?
Yeah, Typho.
He was gonna type anything right?
Yeah. But that was just stuff like that. I love learning like it's about the skull. I love stuff like that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's like hilariously obscure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that someone took the time to create a backstory
Out of a skull
Of a
that
skull.
was seen for,
Yeah.
you know.
But that's always been the fun
What
of
was
Star
that, where was
Wars.
that? I wonder if there's more of a backstory to that one. He's the he was in the fucking shit. Cantina.
Oh, Cantina?
And he actually was cut out of the original film just because it didn't pan out far enough. He was the wolf guy.
Oh yeah. He does.
I'm wondering how
they've-
much
They've
more
added
they delved into his character because I have his action
Yeah.
figure. He got his own action figure,
Yeah.
which you know
Every
they gave everyone
every
one.
character from the Cantina has their own action figure.
Yes.
They have what, maybe 2 seconds of screen time?
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah.
The wolf guy
and he didn't even make screen time.
I forget his species, but they've
And he's
they have had other characters of his type on some of the animated shows. So, believe me, I looked it up. I'm sure if I had my buddy Red here, he'd be able to say exactly because he knows literally everything about.
we do have the interweb at our fingertips
We
right
do.
now. I just don't know enough about.
Yeah.
If I close out of this, if I can.
But yeah, I mean that's what initially attracted me to Star Wars when I was a kid. I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but it did when you were a kid watching it. Your imagination would just run wild.
It
mean,
was the easiest thing to relate to as a kid growing up,
especially if
especially
you were a
as
kid
an
being, like,
outsider.
especially if you were being bullied, if you were like not. I mean, I was just bullied. I was awkward. I still am, But
Because if you think about it, you know, Luke Skywalker was a
a
fucking
nobody
a curtain jerker,
initially.
nobody. Yeah,
Initially, yeah,
nobody. And I mean, that he knew of anyways.
yeah.
You know,
And
there were
originally it
other.
was because they didn't have all the extra, because George Lucas didn't know. I mean, he wanted to, but the first movie could have easily bombed. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
So
But you know, I mean, and it didn't take anything for, you know, a kid to go out into the woods, and you know, any stick you found was a
mhm.
lightsaber, and all of a
Or a
sudden,
blaster.
yeah, you're the, yeah, either you were picking up a blaster and you were fucking Han Solo, you were the cool
Which
guy,
that was
you were hip.
so satisfying when you find the one stick that was shaped just
Oh, that
fucking
was the best. That was the best.
perfectly, man.
Especially if it was like curved like this, and then it had
Yes.
the little nub on the end
Yep.
of it too, so you can be like, oh, I
Yep.
can reload it. And oh yeah, dude, yeah, that was the best. And I think non Star Wars related, but also um, Harrison Ford related,
Yeah.
was that Indiana Jones. And anyone that's ever known me knows that growing up from a very young age, I 100% wanted to be Indiana Jones in the Indiana Jones
Di
show at Disney or
Oh,
whatever it is,
yeah, yeah. I
Universal,
think it's
whatever.
Universal. No, maybe it is. I think it is
I
Disney.
don't know. It's all the
Yeah.
same, whatever. But that was the I went there as a kid, and I was like, that would be the greatest job
Yeah.
ever. You get to be fucking Indiana Jones. Like, I understand he's a character in a movie I'm watching. I know it's not real, but you get to be him in real life just for that brief moment every day. You get to pick up the whip, and you know, you get the girl,
Yeah.
you get to run from the boulder. You know,
Did
incredible.
did did you have any of his action figures when you were a kid?
No,
No? Okay.
no. What I had was an old sweeper that my mom threw away, and I cut the cord off of it, and I had a whip, and I
Uh,
maimed myself many a times on it. But I also would, crazy enough, if you do like whip at a tree branch,
mhm.
and you know it
The
loops around
coil.
itself, the coils, and you pull it taut, you can swing. You know, I mean, yeah, I did some weird shit in the woods when I was a
Well,
kid,
no,
but
I think you did like shit many kids were doing. I mean, those movies, especially if you were born in that generation when you didn't have the access to social media, when you didn't have all this, which that's another topic. I'm gonna get on a huge tangent here in a little bit, but um, when you're a kid, like Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw that I remember watching
oof,
because my
I
parents
would have to try to think of that.
got the VHS box set before it was altered and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember watching that when I was like 4 or 5 years old. That's the first movie I have a memory watching, and it opened all the doors for me. That's why for the longest time I've been obsessed with it ever since.
See, I was kind of, I was different in the sense, which, and I just remembered something that was funny that I want to tell you.
Yeah.
But I remember it was one Christmas, and I had seen stars before,
Yeah.
and like I liked them, they were cool when I was a kid. You know, it was like, but I ended up growing up in like the era of Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
so it was like, oh, I gotta go back and rewatch Star Wars, and like that's when it was just like,
Yeah.
these are great, and
Well,
it
I
was
think
it was kind of funny though, because like my dad is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, loved Lord of the Rings, and whenever the movies came out, he would, you know, it was for my dad, like if like something special like that would happen, like we would like watch movies, or we'd order Pizza Hut,
Mhm.
we'd have the fucking pizza Hut there, we'd sit down, we'd all watch a movie and whatnot. He was so excited. I just could not get into Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, and I still,
Well,
as an adult, I've tried to rewatch them. I can't. I get it,
yeah.
but that's, and it's heartbreaking for me to remember that, because like that was like one thing that my dad and I couldn't bond over, and I'm thinking to myself, well, now what if my son isn't as big into Star Wars as I am when he gets older, and I named him fucking Luke after Luke Skywalker.
Hell,
So I mean, it is what it is, though. You know
but
what I
the
mean?
important thing is though with your son is you found a balance between teaching him to use his imagination. Like he's a very
He's a
creative,
very creative kid.
very creative kid, but also be practical. Like go outside, spend some time, like just being outside, get yourself like dirty, do. So you
Yeah.
found a good balance
You
between.
kind of have to force him to because
Yeah.
he's sheltered when he
Well, I'm saying
goes the
like
other way.
you didn't just have the mentality of I'm just going to slap a screen in front of you. Like do something, go
Yeah.
out and do something.
Yeah, I
And
mean, we do try to go to cons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's always been one of the guys. Like I always tell people it's hard to say like that I'm a good parent because I've never had a child. Like he's never been a child. He's been a
Yeah.
He's been a fucking buddy my whole life. So
Yeah.
it's he's a good kid. I couldn't ask for a better one. But the funny thing I want to tell you was that another thing I recently saw that kind of blew my mind was that uh, I always say his name wrong. Peter Cushing, Chewbacca.
Oh yeah.
Did I say it right?
Peter Mayhew.
Mayhew. Oh, why was that?
Well,
Yeah,
Peter Cushing's Moff Tarkin.
that's right.
Yeah.
Peter Mayhew. Um, he actually voiced Chewbacca's. Chewbacca had lines.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually spoken English lines.
Yeah, when you watch the behind the scenes, he had actual English lines.
Hilarious.
It's
hilarious
because it was him like in his accent.
Yeah.
And like, oh, who is that? That
and
crazy
and,
old
and
man?
same with Darth Vader when he would freaking say his lines. He was a big, real thick Scottish accent.
It's Star Wars is the epitome of everything had to click into place for that movie. Because if you would change one thing, like if they didn't get James Earl Jones to come in and be that movie would be so stupid.
It would be the worst. It would literally be the worst.
My favorite scene out of any Star Wars movie will always be because, like you said about being the kid and being like go out and feeling like an outsider.
Oh, Broom Kid.
Yeah, Broom Kid. No, will always be the Binary Sunset in the original movie.
Yeah,
that was always
for sure.
That's probably my favorite scene in any movie ever. It's perfect.
My favorite scene in any Star Wars film was when Harrison Ford grabs Carrie Fisher tits in the Battle of Endor.
All sneaky.
They smiled at each other.
Sneaky.
Dude, that was great.
Actually, a great example of how they like just completely destroy people's fan theories nowadays, and is for the longest time, you won't be as you'll know.
I bet he had a few Yinglings in him that day.
I covered up by the mic. There we go. There's a soldier on the Battle of Endor. Whenever they trick the Imperial officers to coming out and chasing.
Yeah, doing the whole loop-de-loop.
Yeah. There's a soldier in the front that has a big white beard. Okay?
Yeah.
For the longest time, people have speculated and theorized that was Captain Rex, the former clone.
Okay.
Because that's what
I'm not as familiar with that.
That's what they made his character look like, and he escaped Order 66. So, for the longest time, people speculated that was Captain Rex. Well, they officially released a Black series of that character and said, no, he isn't Captain Rex. He's an actual, just a random soldier. People are like, oh, come on. Like, that was our...
But they couldn't have been.
I know.
It's kind of like the Pepe Sylvia thing from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, man, like, everyone was so hyped up about that. Like, it made sense with the timeline, the lore, and it is what it is, I guess. But, like, I was reading people's comments, like, well, we still have our fan theories, people...
there's fan theories for days. I mean, and they're all great, honestly. Yeah.
So, I'm really excited.
Well, let me ask you this. What is your favorite Star Wars fan theory?
That, because I don't think it's ever confirmed, that whenever Boba Fett's about to shoot Chewbacca, Vader swipes his gun down because C-3PO is on his back. And Anakin remembers building C-3PO.
Oh, okay.
That's the favorite thing that I've read people have speculated about a scene.
I like that.
So, now next time you watch Empire, he goes to, when Chewbacca starts fighting off the stormtroopers because they're about to...
And the guy that played Boba Fett was in the background of that scene, right?
Well, he was the one escorting Princess Leia whenever Luke first came in. Yeah,
around about the same time.
Yeah, man. And did you watch that short about Boba Fett on Disney Plus, like the 15-minute about the creation of him and whatnot?
I might have.
It was really interesting. It's only like 15 minutes. You get a chance to watch it sometime, but it's really interesting to hear about the creation of his character. And I mean, fuck, he only had like through the trilogy 6 minutes of screen time, if that, maybe 4 minutes of screen
Yeah,
time.
and he was the biggest character. He's like one of the most recognizable
When
characters of
you
Star
know
Wars.
when they first introduced him,
The Christmas special.
no, a parade,
That's right.
a random
That's
parade.
right. That is right. Yep. Okay, I did know that. I
Darth
did know
Vader,
that.
him, and I think a couple like stormtroopers, but like
Yeah,
signing autograph books. But like, who is this character? And it was
I
that
did
was the
know that.
first
Yeah,
ever intro time they showed him off to the public.
that was funny.
And yeah, man, I mean, it was. It's hard for me to say how kids will react to the newer movies because when I was a kid, I grew up with the prequels. I love the prequels. You talk to like anybody from the generation, most people from the generation before, that's like the prequels were the biggest slap in the face to the world that Lucas set up for us. So I mean,
I'm
every
kind.
generation reacts differently. The thing is, it's just a different world in general now, and I think that applies more to how kids will grow up with the movies than.
Ugh, God, everything's so inclusive and shit now.
Well,
It's like
I don't mind that. It's the fact that
as long as they don't try shoving stuff down our
no,
throats.
it's the fact that like you said about, I don't think as many kids go out to the woods and look for sticks that look like lightsabers or blasters anymore.
No
You know
kids
what I
go out in
mean?
the woods and play anymore now.
That's what I'm saying. Like and that was what made that
Star Wars
special.
is I mean, obviously it's a high fantasy world because we
Yeah.
don't have lightsabers, we don't have speeders, we don't have, what I mean? But like
Well, that was the whole thing. It was more. So he wrote like a fairy tale. It was more supposed to be like a fairy tale, like
yeah,
a fantasy.
even going the lines of like kids playing in the woods and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like you know where I used to live, we had woods out back, and you take your bike down through these trails. You're going down through the woods. You were in the fucking forest of Endor.
Yeah.
You were on a speeder bike zooming around through Endor. You know what I mean? Like it
Yep.
was even like in like my teenage years, into paintball, which we need to get that rolling. But anyway, um, you're in the trenches. Well, you're a fucking, you're part of the Rebel Alliance. You're trying to blast
Yeah.
fucking stormtroopers and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And well, shit. Even in my fucking late 30s, I'm every time I go to open through an automatic door,
That's
I open up with the Force.
Star Wars fans, like true Star Wars fans, will always be eternal kids. They will always be kids at heart, and they never lose that.
As a man
aspect.
sitting in his basement full of Star Wars toys, yes, I can agree.
Yeah, I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's, I think, life gets too shitty and serious all the time. It's important for people to, in my opinion, remember. Go ahead, do the sound effect. I saw you reaching for it.
Sorry.
I'll wait till you're done.
I'm good.
Okay. But what I was gonna say was, it's important, I think, for people to hold on to the stuff that made them just not feel the stress of life like when they were a kid. It's important to hang on to those things that still make you feel like a kid at heart, even if it's something small. You know what I mean?
Not even so much that I feel like, and I know you can relate, but Star Wars got me through a lot of
Oh yeah,
very dark times.
Oh yeah,
and
same here.
You want to sit back and
you want to sit back and not think about that shit. You want to be taken to a different
and
world.
For me, it really wasn't more of the fantasy part of it, escaping reality and whatnot. I just wanted to be, and maybe this is why I wanted to grow up to be Indiana Jones. I feel like I just wanted to be Harrison Ford because,
well, who doesn't?
It's true. He had the swag.
Mm-hmm.
Everything he did, he had the swag.
In every movie.
Han Solo,
every movie he did.
Strutted. Even his fucking holstered fucking blaster was like just like
the way
dangling off his fucking hip, like he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like he was just the cool guy, and he could talk his way out of anything, and he didn't necessarily have to try that hard. He just kind of sauntered his way through shit.
I think the scene that epitomizes Harrison Ford just as that type of character. I mean, you could pick anything like the "I Love You, I Know" scene from Star Wars, which is just classic.
Incredible.
But even though it was done by not intentionally because of circumstances,
He
but the
was sick.
whole the sword and pistol scene from
Also
Indiana
sick.
Jones. Yeah. So I mean, that is just the epitome of badass right there. Just setting up this big fight and just, I mean, that's iconic. He is I mean, and Mark Hamill, man. I mean, Luke Skywalker, amazing character growing up. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker. I mean, it's just I don't know.
And what's great about like Mark Hamill too is that he's just a fucking awkward guy too. Like
Mhm.
he's just a
Yep.
he's just a regular dude. Like
Yep.
he just there he's not a classically handsome fella. He's you know he's a great actor. He's
Yeah.
a fantastic voice actor as well. But not classically good looking. He's I don't know if he's
Well,
tall or not, but like
Mark Hamill's the
he
part.
carries himself well.
Mark Hamill's the piece of that cast that has always been for the fans. Not that Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher was great with the fans too, but I'm just saying Mark Hamill's always been that one that like would speak for the fans whenever something would happen in the Star
Yeah.
Wars. Like he was the first one to talk about the handling of Luke Skywalker in the movie. He was the first one to
Well,
he loved his character. He loved the character of Luke Skywalker.
he loves Star
and-
Wars. He
yeah.
loves Luke Skywalker, and he is the champion of Star Wars,
Yeah.
as well as I still think George Lucas cares
Yeah.
deeply about it. Harrison Ford, again, just I don't think he gives. I mean,
He's a private person.
he's a very private
he's a
person,
private
and I
person.
don't think he gives too much of a fuck about Star
No.
Wars. And that's not saying that he's a bad person or that he's well fuck him, he doesn't care about his kid. No, it's that it was a role he played, and
Yeah.
maybe he's not as
Yeah.
invested into like deep space
No.
reality. Fucking what would they call it? A Western romance in space or something like
Space
that.
opera.
Yeah, and so I mean, I can appreciate that he's not, and he wanted his character to die. He wanted to go out as a badass,
Yeah.
whatever, and that's fine.
He cared about the role, but he didn't want his entire career to revolve around
Yeah,
that role.
and Carrie Fisher was another one of those where she had her own. She picked up her torch
She embraced
for a
it
lot
in
of
her
other
late-
things.
She embraced it in her later years too.
Oh yeah, 100%
She
in
really
her later
embraced it in
years.
her
Yeah.
later years. Which that hit me hard when she passed.
That really
hit me hard when she passed.
That was a hard one.
No, but like it's always been.
I didn't masturbate for 2 days after that. That says a lot there.
Couldn't do it.
Could not do it.
Yeah, the new movies. The most hyped I was for the new movies was sitting there during the opening logo for The Force Awakens. Just seeing a new Star Wars movie with that intro again that I haven't seen in over like 10 years. You know what I mean?
I remember
Because I'll be honest, when the trailer for Last Jedi came out, when the trailer for Rise of Skywalker came out, like, yeah, I was like, oh shit.
did
like,
we see that together?
we saw
Force Awakens?
we saw Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker together. We didn't see Force Awakens together.
Okay.
No, we didn't see that together.
I do remember
I was still at the movie theater during that.
I cried in that movie.
From Han Solo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when the trailer dropped and I lost my mind. I
Oh,
actually
on Black Friday.
I actually had a
On Black
party the following week for everyone to come over and analyze this to see if there was anything in there that like is going to give away to things that were to happen, which
We did the same thing for
not
Last
much
Jedi.
really fucking happened, but
No, not much really did.
yeah.
Again, back to Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, when that came out, he pretty much told people.
I mean, he's definitely going to hear us talking about him, and he's going to try
sure.
to contact
For
us,
sure.
and he's going to want to hang out. He's going to see all my stuff. He's going to be like, "These fucking guys, they get it. They get it."
He's all over your wall.
He is. He's probably actually just going to get a restraining order. If anything,
Probably.
I'm sure I'm literally the least of most of the evils that he has to deal with on a daily basis.
Probably the most emotional I got like from actual new Star Wars was the Mandalorian season 2 finale. With him.
That?
Oh yeah. Just because
when he comes in at the end.
Yeah,
And
just processing, the gears clicking. Like, oh, it's an X-wing. Oh, well, who do we know? Who they call? And like, no, they wouldn't. They would.
there
They,
were a few times in the new ones that got me. Obviously, when Han Solo died, that hit me hard.
I'm not going to sit here and defend The Last Jedi because obviously, I mean, I've as time has passed, my opinions on it, the trilogy as a whole have changed, but I will still defend how they handled his death, Luke Skywalker's death.
Agreed.
I will still defend how they handled
won't.
that.
I won't. That's the only thing I won't argue
Yeah,
on.
I will defend
I'm
how they
actually
handled
okay with that.
that. Not necessarily how they handled his character, but how they handled his death. I thought was very
Yeah,
well. It felt right for me.
it did. It did.
For me.
The only other thing that got me, that hit me right in the feels, and I mean, it really got. I don't know why, but it
From a
really got me.
movie?
A movie,
Okay.
Rise of Skywalker, when they were all attacking. They were trying to take down the beacon of the mothership,
Oh, when all the different ships came in?
and Poe just that defeated.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then fucking Lando and Chewbacca show up in the Falcon.
Wedge.
Oh man, I'm just like, oh shit, they're here, dude. The backup, the cavalry has arrived, and they swooped in, and it was just they were all there. You know, I mean, it was just
I do like a good
that hit me. That hit me
I
good.
do like a good cavalry. That's how I feel about the whole Battle of Scarif in Rogue One.
Yeah,
When the
I mean
rebels
that was
Rogue One was I saw that like at a matinee because like I had high hopes for it, but like I was like, I don't know, like I don't know how like a spin-off will work. Like it's a good idea. I
I knew
wasn't
it was
like
gonna be great.
I wasn't like I didn't know what to expect from it. And then when I
I
saw
was
it,
sold from day one, and you know what I was also sold on, and it hasn't happened yet, and I really
hmm,
hope it does. Rogue Squadron. I'm so
yeah,
fucking sold on that movie
yeah.
because
I played the games too growing up, and the games were amazing.
well, I'm hoping it just it's its own
Yeah,
thing. That's all I'm hoping
yeah.
for.
But if since we're reminiscing, this is the other thing I was going to bring up. We're at 37 minutes right
That time
now.
we kissed.
Yes. Which time? Um,
Good point.
we're reminiscing about uh childhoods and stuff we watched growing up, and you talked about like bonding with your dad and whatnot. And this is something I was talking with my family about and some of my friends, and I was thinking about this, and I was I was trying to come up with a reason of why I felt like it was still something that was kind of missing from today's world. And that was I was just thinking about video stores, video rental places.
Oh, that's 100% my childhood with my dad.
I was thinking about just the few places I would go to. And I think the reason why, because you try to explain that to a kid now, they're not going to know what you're talking about.
Luke was very confused by a fucking DVD.
That's yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But my thing is, and you can disagree, you can agree, disagree with me on this. This is my thing with the video rental places because I remember I'd go to KV Video, I'd go to BP when they used to rent videos in their little snack area, and there was a
John Eagle as
place.
well.
John Eagle did,
They
yeah.
did. They did.
Well, real quick, what places would you go to?
So go ahead and finish what you're going to, because I'm going to segue
Okay.
into something else, and then we'll cap it off with what I segue
that's
into.
fine. My thing with that era is because of the internet and everything today, I feel like kids today, I feel like no one has time to get excited for anything.
Yeah.
Because, and I know like you still have to wait for like release dates for movies, for video games, and that stuff, but like it was something
Well, it's
to
like
look
3 weeks out of like right now. You can go on Voodoo, and you can get
that's
in theaters now.
yeah.
You don't even have to go to the fucking theater anymore.
Everything is so, I think, based around instant gratification nowadays.
Yes.
I want it now, which, yes, it is very convenient. But at the same time, when I was going to a weekend, because my parents were divorced whenever I was little, and when I'd be spending a weekend with my dad, I knew we were going to be renting a movie or doing something. It was something.
That's a dad thing.
It was something to
Yeah.
look forward to.
Yeah.
And I feel like because like you said, even movies that get released in theaters, they're usually on a streaming service the same day.
Yeah.
I just feel like kids today don't know what it's like to wait and be excited for
It's the
something.
instant gratification,
Because
like you said.
even with movies, there's like 50 million trailers that come out. The hype's usually died down by the time like the final trailer came out and the movie's about to come out. And they show everything in the trailers. They don't reveal it. They don't wait anything for the
No.
movies. And everything's online, and it sucks because
Or it gets leaked.
or it gets leaked.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking about just waiting for between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and like that wait felt like an eternity until we got a new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now
Yeah.
it's like a new Marvel movie is going to come out like every couple of months. Yeah,
Or
the mouse.
the corporation just
And it's just
milking away.
And don't get me wrong, I love all the Star Wars content that we have. I think they've done a great job with like some of the shows and
See,
whatnot.
you say that, but honestly, I just feel like you're just fucking
They-
shoving it
they
down my
are.
throat.
They are.
And like you're always telling, like you and Ken, like, oh, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch. Like
Well, Clone Wars was out before all the new
I
stuff.
know, but it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
No, it
It's
is.
overwhelming.
It is, but I just feel like there's no time for kids to get excited about anything nowadays, and that's something that for some reason was really, yeah,
That's not what I thought. It was gonna be.
it's something that for some reason was really when I was little, and it's the world we live in too. When I was little, I'll never forget when I used to travel with my mother, because I've told you this. Anyone our viewers don't know this,
I
but
think there's two of them.
two people.
I think that's what that
Um,
means.
There's two people. But our
Kyle?
viewers that watch this eventually.
Whoever's viewing, comment so we know who you are.
But I'll know.
Oh, it is Kyle.
Yeah, up, man.
Yeah.
But I remember our good friend Kyle's watching.
Our best
Our
best
the
listener.
most beautiful man in the world.
He is very beautiful.
Anyway, I'll never forget my first cell phone. I got an old brick of a flip phone, and I would travel with my mom to places. She'd just be like, "Go do your thing." I'd walk around. I'd explore. I'd find like an arcade or something like that to go
Well,
to kill
before everyone was
time.
trying to diddle kids.
Yeah, true. And like, looking back, I found the dumbest stuff to keep myself occupied. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a cell phone, I didn't have the internet, I couldn't look at anything. I usually have my Game Boy with me,
Yeah.
and I had
With
like
the little curly Q light.
yeah. But I would find the dumbest stuff to keep me occupied, man. And it was enough. It was enough.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, and I'm not a parent, so I can't speak for parents out there, but I just feel, you missed it, Kyle. There will be no commentary. I told you. Me and Kyle have a very long
Kyle and I.
Sorry. We have a very long history of debating The Last Jedi. But yeah, that's essentially the point I was trying to make, is that I feel like in this day and age, and because everybody's on TikTok, everybody's on Instagram, everybody's on every platform, it's just, and I'm guilty because I use my phone for so much, but I feel like
Porn.
yes, but Doc, you met the days of porn back in the day when like you really had to use your imagination.
I remember having to go down to my buddy's house down the street, and up in his like parents' like attic, there was a book called the ABCs of Anatomy.
But is that not a cherished memory?
You'd have
though?
to flip through the puberty
Is
section,
that-
and you would see developing breasts.
Is
and,
that
and
not
a
a
bush.
cherished memory?
It
that
is.
you
It is a
have?
very cherished memory, and
You know?
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
This might be like a pretentious comment, but I feel like, I mean, every generation's different. I mean, obviously the generation before us was reacting to the technology we were getting access to and the way the world was changing. But I feel like, I don't know, man. I just feel like kids, so many. That's why I was saying earlier, I appreciate, with Luke, how he draws, he's creative, he uses his
Yeah, he's very
mind
good.
and
The
whatnot.
Legos have definitely brought that out
Legos.
in him recently, but yeah.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, man. It's great. It's crazy to think about just trying to explain a video story to a kid nowadays. They'll probably look at you like you're insane.
So I'm gonna swing it over.
Yeah.
Over to me now. Like you were saying, and And I assume a lot of those video store memories was with your dad.
My dad, my mom and I would rent a lot of videos too, but mostly when I'd go to my dad over the weekends, we usually get a couple things to watch.
And to that credit, um, most of my memories because I my dad's a man of few interests. He's very big into music
Hmm.
and he loves his movies.
Hmm.
And that was one of the things that we definitely bonded over as growing up was that media play back when it was in Monroeville.
I love Media Play, dude.
That was our joint.
I still have a
And
lot of games I got from Media Play back in the day.
and we used to go there and whatnot, and Barnes and Noble too.
And
Believe
Borders.
believe it or not, yeah, I used to get books here and there. He does like to read a lot too, but that was the big thing. It was just like we always knew when it was like a dad night. It was like there was gonna be a movie, there was gonna be pizza. We would
Yep.
sit down, we would watch this movie. It would be a good time. Um, but then music was definitely another thing that we bonded over too. And was the other this other subject gonna segue to for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Um, music for sure. Um, growing up, and it's kind of sad to think about now, but I didn't appreciate music when I wish I could have, because growing up, I spent a lot of times as a kid in bars and fire halls and stuff like that when my dad was in a band and
Hmm.
he was a bitching guitarist. And I wish I could have, because most of the time I was like playing with like fucking coasters and stuff like that, like just like, all
Yeah.
right, when are we gonna get home? I'm
Yeah.
tired. But like, I wish I had appreciated the music back then that I do now, because I would have had just such a better time and better
Yeah.
memories of all that stuff.
Well, that's just growing and learning too. That's
Yeah.
just, developing as a person.
And what made me think about that was I was thinking about how I think metal music, we are on a common ground with that.
Hmm.
But I think metal music is different for us. Now, what do you think of when you think of like your favorite like metal band? Like what's your best memory from like a band or like a song, something that like in metal that has happened in your life that you're like, fuck yeah, dude. Like that was something great that was happening when I was listening to metal.
Well, great that was happening. Well, see, my thing was I met a lot of great friends in school through metal music. I When I finally kind of found a group of friends that I kind of hit it off with, they gave me we'd be on the bus and they'd have me, hey, check this band out. They're called Metallica. Check this band out. They're called Pantera. Check, Guns N' Roses out. Check Motley Crue out. All these different bands. So it was just it's not so much me doing something specific, but my mind just being blown because I've never listened to anything like that before when I
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
7 or 8 years old. And then like my mother was always really cool about like my embracing the stuff that I was really into.
She is beautiful.
So she would buy me. We go to Sam Goody.
Sam Goody, that's
Sam
another one.
Goody,
FYE was another one.
FYE
That was
back
some
in the
shit
day.
back in the day.
So Sam Goody, and we'd always I'd get a lot of media play, get a lot of CDs. My mom was always about because my mom loves music. And to your point that you were making earlier, I kind of now that I love this stuff, I kind of wish I'd pay more attention to the music my parents loved growing up because I love a lot of that music
Oh,
now.
for sure.
So,
Now here's my thing though. Now you talked about you bonded with,
mhm,
friends and whatnot. For me, I loved metal music, but metal music, and I was more glam rock, obviously,
yeah,
Motley Crue, Poison,
mhm,
you know, that shit for me was always like a fucking anthem.
yeah,
Like whenever something fucking cool was going down, that was a fucking anthem for me. Because I remember one time when I was probably just maybe 21 at the time, and I was out at the bar, and they had this fucking beer pong table set up, and I'm there, and like I go over to the fucking jukebox, I'm playing some shit, whatnot. I'm on this date with this girl, and I'm like just trying to impress her and whatnot, and I'm like probably bombing. But anyway, so like I go and I'm playing fucking beer pong and whatnot, and I'm just like, fuck it, just going to town. And it goes down to the last cup, and they sink it, and they're like, all right, shoot for redemption. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I'm
And
terrible
like a
at it.
song kicked on, and
It was
then
it was Van Halen Panama, and yeah.
Panama.
So picture this: a fucking
Yeah,
plain white tee, fucking sagging jeans,
yeah.
hat on backwards. I've got a refreshing Yingling and a bottle though, and I'm at the bar and I'm just like, all right, and then Panama, tip my head back and I'm just drinking my delicious Yingling, and I make the fucking throw and boom, make the shot, and that was like one of my favorite fucking memories. It was like, dude, it was like Van Halen played my fucking anthem for me being just the place went nuts, dude. I was a fucking celebrity. Like it just went wild, and we ended up coming back and winning and
Yeah.
shit. That was great. And I just always like I always think of these great metal memories of these great glam bands and like the good times I had while I was
Yeah.
listening to them, like just parties and girls and shit like that. I remember one time when I was at Kent State, and it was crazy. It was the first time I ever heard Steel Panther, which is one of my favorite bands.
Hmm.
And I'm down in this basement of some house in Kent State, and I hear fucking Steel Panther for the first time, and I'm just like, these guys are gonna be the anthem of my fucking night. And it was a great night. I won't go into details, but it was just a great night. And like that's where like I can
I
see it being like that's my metal relationship. Like that's why, like, I don't know. I always used metal music and glam bands and stuff to like kind of like make me into like I'm that rock star at that time.
yeah.
I'm David Lee Roth in fucking tight leather pants. I'm fucking
I
Vince Neil just
yeah.
thrusting around like that's just where it takes me.
For me, it went along with being a kid that was very awkward, did get bullied, and went along with being a nerd, liking video games, liking Star Wars because it was an outsider music. You know, like, if you listen to certain metal bands in school, you were weird.
Oh, if you listen to Slayer, you're gonna shoot the
Yeah,
fucking place
that's what
up.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my buddy Steve that I grew up with. He
Yeah.
he got detention for having a Slayer CD on him. Yeah, and it was just like, why? But it was, I don't know, man. Like all that stuff went hand in hand for me because I love just coming home from school, listening to CDs, playing video games, watching TV, and just hanging out with my family. And I mean, all things considered, I'm very lucky. I had a very on the home front, I had a very good childhood. I'm very lucky that I had parents that, even though they were separate, they embraced the stuff that I was into. So I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, I mean, but now I listen to all kinds of stuff. I listen to like a lot of stuff my parents grew up like a lot of '60s rock, a lot of
Well,
'70s
60s,
rock,
70s, yeah.
all that stuff. I mean, but then I think I like talking to my sister because my sister was a child of the '80s. So I like hearing
I
her.
like talking to your sister too.
I like hearing, yeah, I I like hearing her. Oh, we're up to 3 people.
Oh shit, maybe it's your sister.
Maybe.
Oh my god, that'd be awesome.
I like hearing her stories about you know her music journey back in the day and like listening to like a lot of her '80s and early '90s groups and going to the mall and like going to Sam Goody back in its heyday and going to different concerts and
Yeah.
I like hearing stories from different generations of people that experience like music, um, movies, all that stuff. Like it's back to the Star Wars thing. It's crazy to wrap my head around being a kid and seeing the original Star Wars movie on opening night. You know what I mean?
You weren't alive for that.
No, I'm saying thinking about what that would have been like.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm saying about thinking about what that would have been like.
Yeah, I was gonna say like,
No.
wait a minute.
My sister was born 77, but so she was born the year that came out. But it's
She
being a
looks great
kid,
for her age.
being a kid and seeing a historic because
Yeah.
didn't exist.
What did you have before then? A fucking hoop and a stick?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy to think about that, man. It's crazy to think about, like, I don't know, people playing Pong for the first time, playing a video game for the first time.
That shit probably blew
You know?
people's minds.
It's crazy, and dude, when you think about how much money those arcade machines made back in the day, it's insane. It is insane. And that's like, I remember being a kid, and back when the movie theater actually had, when I was a kid, had a decent arcade in it. They had a House of the Dead machine in there.
Now, Carmike had that real fucking half-assed one.
I know, but
It was
had
real
but
half-assed.
it
And it
had
did have House of the
Dead.
Dead, yeah, but it was real fucking
As a
half-assed.
kid,
And that
but
bullshit
I
never worked half the time.
But I loved playing that.
Yeah.
But I loved playing that. That's like I said, when I was a kid and I traveled, my mother had her own business, and she used to be like, "Hey, do you want to miss a week of school and come to this new place with me?" And I'm like, as a kid, you're like, "Oh, I don't know, Mom, that sounds terrible."
Awesome.
Yeah. And but yeah, I used to find a lot of arcades, and I'll never forget the first time I played the Star Wars cabinet.
Oh yeah.
Star Wars
yeah.
cockpit.
Oh yeah.
I was mind blowing. And playing House of Dead, Carnival.
Carnival was the fucking shit. Yeah.
Tekken, all that stuff, man. Mortal
Street
Kombat,
Fighter.
Street Fighter, NBA Jam, all that stuff, man. Like, I have so many good memories playing that stuff, and that's why it's kind of cool that arcade bars are now like becoming more and more and more popular.
The 8-bit whatever
Like
bullshit.
16-bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
But what's fun is you have the generation that was kids going to arcades. Now it's like, hey, now you can drink and play all these games from your childhood, and like bring your kids and they can play some of the arcade classics, and it's cool, man. Those are fun places, but a lot of good memories. A lot of good memories for sure. We're up to 7 people.
Oh Jesus, Murphy!
Oh my god!
Who are all of you,
folks? This is record. This is record
I don't
breaking
even
numbers.
think we have that many subscribers.
I know I have that many friends.
I was gonna say,
oh, we're down to 5. We're down to 5.
Ah, fuck you too, anyway.
But
you want to cap it off? We were about roundabouts an hour.
Yeah, it's about an hour.
So.
We each got work in the morning, so I'm gonna drive home and call it
well,
a night.
whoever. Now we're down to 4.
Yep.
Jesus. All right. Well, whoever the 4 of you are, we appreciate you sticking with us this long.
I feel like this was a good episode.
This was a good episode.
Good episode.
Hopefully, more people, not necessarily. I mean, I don't give a fuck who comes in live, but whoever maybe stumbles upon this later on and is interested in things that we talk about. We would like to, just shoot us your ideas.
Potentially get feedback one day if anyone actually ever cares.
a comment would be nice. Be sure to eat that like button's ass and comment the fuck out of this and subscribe and a 69. I don't know. And Kyle said not to make things.
We're down to 1 after you said all that.
All right. So anyway.
That's it.
Please tell us what to do. We don't fucking know. Yeah. Anyway, play us off. I hate this.